This is the Iron Sharpens Iron movement, sharing insights into the power of people-centric leading.
Hi, this is Jim, and today we welcome to our tribe the world's leading change enthusiast. She helps organizations disrupt change as usual. Through a practical and repeatable framework, she shows how you can transform your culture from surviving change to growing through change. It's all about the growth mindset. This is Cassandra Worthy. Iron Sharpens Iron movement is brought to you by N2 Growth, a leader in executive search, leadership development, and talent management. We find and develop the world's best leaders. Learn more about our practice by visiting us at n2growth.com or click on the link in the show notes of this podcast. Cassandra, welcome to the Iron Sharpens Iron movement. We are happy to have you here today. And I can tell you, I've almost had to put a seatbelt on because I think we got to strap in. I know how motivated you are and how enthusiastic you are. And this is going to be a great podcast. We're really looking forward to it. Welcome to the tribe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, Jim. And thank you to all the listeners. You got a strong following and a strong tribe. So I'm just excited to be here.
Awesome. I noticed too, when I was stalking you that you like to use the word tribe. I love that. I love that term. You know, I mean, that sense of community and followership and mentorship and leadership, it's all intertwined and everything. I just love the word. It's a great word.
Yeah, absolutely. Shared values. It's important. It's important you find your tribe, you know?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So here's a funny thing. So when I first come onto your website and right there in front of me, you have these two huge words. You're the world's leading change enthusiast. So,
yes,
I tell you what, my defense mechanisms are already on. I'm an old guy. And so guess what I don't like? I don't like change. And I'm a little, leery of enthusiasm. So talk to us really about, why have you called yourself this change enthusiast? And I know it's closely connected to culture. I know it's closely connected to several other things. It's more than motivational speaking. You really get into a methodology, which we'll talk about. But how did you come about? What was your journey to where you woke up one day and said, you know what? I am a change enthusiast, and I can actually preach this from the highest mountains to others, and they'll catch it.
Yeah. Well, first, let me say, Jim, it hurts my heart hearing you say you're leery about enthusiasm. Come on, man. But this is my intention. By the end of this podcast, I might have changed you.
That's right. That's the goal.
Changed, man.
That is the goal. Yeah.
No, listen, I wish it was as easy as my just waking up one day and saying, hey, yo, I'm a change enthusiast. But it didn't happen that way. I know that you've said you've stalked me, but I'll share a little bit for the listeners. So I'm a chemical engineer by trade, and I spent 15 years working in corporate, mostly in the consumer packaged goods industry, leading innovation, doing, new product design, process innovation. I led a lot of, manufacturing initiatives. And it was a ball. I had a blast. But the more that I worked in corporate, I continued hearing this intuition, this voice within saying that there was more. There was more, that my natural gifts, talents, and abilities could be leveraged, ways that they could be leveraged to share with the world. And in listening to that intuition, as well as what I was hearing around me, as far as the unique value that I brought to leadership teams, that I brought to my organizations, around, my excitement, enthusiasm, my articulation, the way that I can develop folks, that was always what really sung out. And so in listening to the, both within and without, so outside of myself, I just started pursuing curiosity and figuring out, well, what could this be? How could I leverage these talents and gifts? And it's been a journey over the past 5 or 6 years, cultivating my consulting firm, cultivating this strategy, this mindset of change enthusiasm, and sharing it with the world in as big of a way as I can. And I guess let me just tee up what change enthusiasm is, right? Because I hear every time I tell people I'm a change enthusiast. And of course, I'm a naturally optimistic, just very upbeat kind of person, if you can't tell.
Shocking.
So usually when I say that, I get eye rolls. I get people look, don't talk to me about, this optimism. I'm struggling right now in change. I don't need to hear all that positivity. Sure. But change enthusiasm, it's a growth mindset. And the beauty is it meets you exactly where you are. So it's a three-step process, three-step growth mindset. The first is recognizing these really tough emotions of change, what I call the signal emotions of change. So your fear, frustration, anxiety, grief, or anger. These emotions are signaling you, inviting you into an opportunity to grow. The second step.
So, Cassandra, I got to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because are you referring to, is this in life in general? So, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the podcast. I'm a senior executive. I'm wanting some tips and tricks and how to sharpen my sword, all of those kind of things. I'm a frontline manager that's just figuring things out for the first times. When you're talking about these signals that are happening to you, are they in life? Are they from work? Or is it just yes?
Yes. Work is a part of life, right? We're talking about
you
work,
bet. Okay.
right? So this is applicable in personal and professional. Now, obviously, I teach it in a professional realm, but of course, you can employ it in your personal life as well. Whenever there's change, disruption, or transformation that happens, and you get those signal emotions. So I'll tell you, I employed it in those 15 years of corporate. The majority of it was spent dealing with acquisitions. So I've been a part of several multi-billion-dollar acquisitions and having to lead cultural integrations and feeling my own signal emotions, frustrated with how am I going to get these cultures to integrate, upset, not really knowing if I myself am going to have a job after the acquisition closes, anxious. So feeling all that myself, as well as knowing the organization are getting their signal emotions as well. And so it's a matter of recognizing and understanding that when you feel that, or when you sense that tension in the organization, you're being invited into this moment of opportunity. And it's a matter of understanding what are my options? How can I maximize this opportunity? Milk it for all that it's worth. And then that final step is about making a conscious, productive choice of the options you laid out. What am I going to choose to take ownership of my work experience and choose to help my organization, nurture my organization through the change and the disruption?
Do you find it to be a hard sell? Because again, I'll push you a little bit on this one, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to push you, just like I said, hey, I'm the grumpy old man sometimes when it's like, oh gosh, change, enthusiasm, so it's one thing. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been asked this before, or at least heard the whispers behind your back? It's one thing to be a keynote speaker, get people charged up, say these three things and kind of high five off the stage, away you go. But you've transformed this into a methodology.
Yes.
You're consulting into this. So you're there for the long haul. You're embedded with the organizations or with the people to do this. So do you find, though, that level of skepticism is real, though? I mean, people are probably more adverse to change than some of the, back to primal things. They want to be close to the cave, small tribe, very protective. Most people are fixed instead of growth. I love that you said growth mindset, by the way. All of those things, right? So I'm painting a big brush of stereotypical human nature, but talk to me about how you overcome some of these things to be able to get this methodology pushed through to the average employee.
Yeah. So I will say the answer to your question is yes. And typically the root of the skepticism is the fact that I talk about the emotions of change. And it's interesting, with that being the root of it, it's so easy for me to address it because emotion is a tool. It's a resource that I feel is an infinite supply. Yeah. And if I'm talking to a CEO, talking to anyone in an executive suite, anyone in a leadership position that I might be engaging with to come into the organization, I can speak the language of emotion and they get it just like that. Yeah. Everyone understands the language of emotion, and they know that even where they sit, they're experiencing frustration. They're experiencing some stress and anxiety. And if you think about it through the lens of it being this energetic tool, this resource that you cannot ignore when you're leading an organization through change, and tell them that I have the tools to teach your organization and employees how to harness the power of that emotion and transform it into excitement and anticipation for your change that you're trying to lead. Well, then they're like, okay, well, when can you come in? when can you get here? And I think if people are beginning to have more and more appreciation for the power of people when going through change. And we're just starting, I guess, over the past couple decades, hearing about people-centric change initiatives, and you're hearing that through the change management practitioners. But I think in change enthusiasm in my firm, we've drilled it down even further to people and our emotions and beliefs. I often say that sustained change does not happen without sustaining change and belief, right? You've got to understand the belief of your people and inject the new belief that you want them to have moving through the change or the disruption. So it's all about hearts and minds, man. And you can't ignore that. You can't ignore it.
Absolutely. And you are preaching to the choir here about that. I would say 90% of the average listeners on this podcast are the folks that understand, human-centric leading is where we should be at, always has been, but it was never really talked about in the past. But where there's this huge, spotlight put on human-centric leading in today's environment, and all of these things are interconnected. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, I'm writing notes as fast as I can, Cassandra. So one of the things when you were talking about, so I'm going to steal a bumper sticker from you where you say emotion is an infinite supply, because it's such a true fact, right? Whether it's good emotion, bad emotion, stress, resilience, wherever you are on the scale, all of those things, it is an emotional thing. So I love that. And lately in the last few of my interviews that I've had, I'm really into neuroscience and now that we understand kind of the power of the brain and all that. But the point I'm getting at is energy. That I think, human beings are all exerting energy. You get to decide, is it positive energy, negative energy? How is that all working? All of that. And talk to me about, have you started to mess around with studying some of the research that's out there about from how the emotions carry your energy and vice versa? I mean, like the emotional state of someone. Talk to me about how you center on emotions.
Yeah, and you're spot on. And I love how you said it's your decision on the energy that you put out. I am a firm believer in the power of your energetic signature. And the research that I have done is about emotional contagion. That's such an interesting concept, and how your emotions and behaviors can be caught by another individual. And so when I teach that with my executives, it really pushes the importance of the awareness of what you're stepping into the office with, how you're stepping in, presenting yourself, what are you choosing in those moments, because it is absolutely contagious and it can take over an entire organization. So you need to be very conscious about that. The other thing that I like to talk about as it relates to emotion and then being this energetic entity is the principle of the conservation of energy. Like I said, I'm an engineer, so I love all the science behind it and employing, these scientific principles to ourselves as emotional beings. But it's like that principle says that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred, conserved, or transformed. And so if you think about that as it relates to emotional energy, a disruption happens, COVID-19 comes and turns your business upside down. You lose your job because of your company downsizing. All of a sudden, you have this ball of signal emotion, whether it be fear, whether it be anxiety, something, this emotion is bubbling within. It's up to you to whether you conserve that, meaning you basically ignore it. You think it's just going to go away. You just house it within. And with that, you're looking to maybe numb out. So you're watching Netflix, you're binging Netflix every night. Maybe you're, binge eating. Maybe you like to drink. I don't know. Somehow you're trying to numb that because you're conserving it within yourself. Or you transfer it. And this is like a venting session, right? And I feel like this is the most natural tendency for us as humans, is just wanting to get it off our chest and just vent to anyone that'll listen, right?
Sure.
But the danger in that is it's like this game of energetic hot potato, because it will transfer from yourself to another individual, but it never really changes. So eventually it just comes right back to you, right? So it's almost like, when you get in those venting sessions, you're with 5 or 6 people, y'all talking about how much things suck, how awful it is. And then it's almost like you just have to keep venting. So every day you're still venting, talking about how much things suck, and nothing ever changes.
That's right.
When all you do is transferring. And the final way is to choose to transform that energy, transform the energy. So, how do you make a choice to move that energy from anxiety to an energy of anticipation, right? How can you choose in that moment to leverage all that beautiful vibration and transform it into, an anticipation versus an anxiety? And it's all up to us. And that's the beautiful part. It's your choice. It's your choice.
That's awesome. I will tell you, because, my mind's going a mile a minute. What a great way. When we talk, I'm a big believer. I have this one saying that I've latched onto for years now about victim or victor, right?
Yeah.
You can be a victim in almost every circumstance. Or you can be a victor in it, victorious attitude, glass half empty, half full, those kind of things, right? The victim, victor. But the realities are, if you put it in the context of how you say it, that this constant energy, it's there. It's always there. It's just being moved around. And it's how you're choosing to move that energy and what it is doing for you and to you. That's amazing. That's awesome. And I think a lot of people will relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah. If I can, I'll share a story.
Sure.
Because this is not just something that I preach. It's not just something that I put into a business and talk about it from 9 to 5 and then go home. This is something that I have ingrained in myself. It's actually something that I cultivated to help myself get through those acquisitions. And so this, thinking about the power of these emotions and how it can fuel your growth. During one of the acquisitions, shortly after it closed, senior leadership was cutting heads, right? I was in middle management at the time, and they were just cutting staff left and right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this new manager that I got, and he had come with the acquisition, so he didn't really know me. He'd been my manager for a couple months, and we were sitting in a budget review in my office, and he's like, Cassandra, I like you, and I want to keep you, but I'm just not seeing a lot of value in having you in my organization in a couple years.
Oh, man.
Like,
right. There's a clue.
Dude, you're talking about signal emotions. Yeah. My mouth went dry. Like, I was like panicked. I'm panicked. I'm thinking like, this guy does not value me. I'm not going to have a job in 2 years. My career is going into the toilet. It was all these bad signal emotions. And, recognizing the physicality that my mouth had just gone dry, I knew, okay, my signals are blasting. Yep. I'm being invited into an opportunity. And so I stepped away from the office and went to the coffee house just to kind of breathe. And in that opportunity, I was like, you know what? He's given me 2 years. And in this 2 years, I could either find a position outside of this company, or I could start seeing what's possible, still working within this company, just not in this organization. And so I chose to transform all of that fear and anxiety of losing my job into some anticipation and like excitement of what am I about to create? Like what is this going to mean for me? Wow. And I actually ended up working with leadership in a different organization, leveraging all that good energy. And I created a role for myself. And within 4 months, I had moved into that new role, and I thrived in it. And it actually was a role that was much better. I was much better suited for. And I had a lot more fun doing it. So it's like, I'm so grateful that guy told me what he did and invited me into that opportunity, because it was because of that I was able to grow even further in my career. So
the victor, not the victim.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
I love it. Fantastic story. And, that's the kind of inspiration that people need to pull out of these kind of podcasts is the fact that, we kind of have all been there. There's very few people that live the fairy tale life. It kind of doesn't really exist, obviously. And so, when you hear people that have gone through certain struggles that a vast majority of people will relate to some way, hopefully they latch onto this and start to become inspired by it. It's good stuff. And I'll tell you, so Cassandra, I know you share this energy, keynote speaking and getting people pumped up. I know you consult into your methodologies and stuff, but you've got something that actually caught my attention that made me reach out to you. You are getting ready to publish a book.
Yes.
Talk to me about that journey first, on how you woke up one day and said, I'm putting this all down on paper and I'm going to write a book. And then tell me about that struggle, or if it was easy for you to make the book, and then tell us all about the book.
Yeah. So I love how you just assume I just wake up mornings and just have these beautiful
Yeah.
epiphanies.
But
I wish
don't
my
you
life
agree
was
with
like,
that?
I wonder what I'm going to wake up tomorrow and think about.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
No, it's been a journey. You know, when I started with speaking, and it's kind of things have just kind of evolved with a consulting firm with my clients wanting more and more. But when I started with speaking, I thought initially I was just going to be a nonfiction writer.
Oh, wow.
And how to leverage these gifts outside of corporate. I was like, well, I'll write kind of like self-help books. So like 6 years ago, that's what I aspired to be as a nonfiction author. But the more that I explored the curiosity, I heard, no, you need to be on a stage, you need to be on video, you need to be in front of people. It's your energy that you should be sharing.
Mm.
And so through that I was able to create the platform and the message. And then the book has come after. And so I'm so grateful. As I was building the business, I stayed in contact. I was able to get connected with Hay House Publishing and Reed Tracy, their president and CEO. And he and I have been friends for the past 2 or 3 years. And through that relationship, I've been able to establish a book deal with his publishing company. So the book writing has happened in this incredible year of 2020. So, yeah, it's been a very interesting journey because it's come in the face of pivoting my business, expanding all of my offerings to include virtual experience complements to everything that the firm had prior to. And so I'm pivoting the business, transforming my office into a home studio, learning virtual. I also, created this LinkedIn learning course at the same time, all while writing this book. And it was overwhelming. I will tell you that. I did experience my signal emotions, but it couldn't have happened at a better time because I was writing the things that I was experiencing. So it was almost like cathartic. It was like therapy for me because I was writing exactly what I needed to read over these past 5 or 6 months. So I'm confident that because this has all happened in 2020, that the right wording, the right messaging, the right feel in the book is gone into it. So yeah, I think it couldn't have happened in better timing, but it's most certainly been a little bit of an overwhelming journey. But yeah, it's coming out next year. So pre-order will be available in spring 2021, and then the official publication date is late summer of next year.
So, Cassandra, what I was going to say is, how did it feel to turn that manuscript in? I mean, so this represents months and months of probably tireless hours. How did that feel? Was that getting it across the finish line, or do you feel like you got to get into that Barnes and Nobles and hold up the hardcover and go, "I made it"?
No, so I've never had kids, but I feel like
This is your baby.
I birthed something, my man.
Yeah, nice.
It was a huge relief. It was a massive sense of accomplishment, and it's been I don't know, it's elating.
Well, congratulations on that for sure. And before we get talking, you brought up another point about LinkedIn Learning that I want to get into because I think it's going to be, we're going to embed the links here in the show notes, and I think the audience are just going to dive in on that. But before, I want to stay on the book for a little bit. And so when you talked about, it was kind of born out of the COVID period, it was written, it's kind of all that emotion that you talk about is probably at the right set. Talk to me from your consulting point of view and probably how when you started writing this, did you put any of the perspective on how life has fundamentally changed in the workforce because of COVID? Have you started to, in the past, pre-COVID, right? It was a lot easier to get everybody together. It was all about a work environment that was at a brick and mortar facility, those kind of things. Has any of your mindset changed in how you classify everything you talk about in a COVID environment and what's going to happen post-COVID?
Yeah, so I'll say that my mindset hasn't been changed, it's been reinforced.
Oh, okay.
The importance of what I bring and the lessons that I teach. So obviously in this world, a lot of people are having to get re-familiar or newly familiar with working remotely,
Yeah.
not going into a brick and mortar, understanding how to still promote engagement and connection throughout the organization while people are working from their homes. And that's, from a leadership perspective. But then for those of us who are having to do it, it's a matter of, competing priorities. We've got folks whose kids are not going to school and they are now wearing, I don't know, 5 or 6 hats.
Yep.
Where they're a teacher, they're having to be, the manager or whatever, the employee, they're a chef, they're, washing clothes, their partners are working from home too. So now they've got this brand new coworker that they never thought they had to deal with. Right?
That's so true.
It's a new dynamic. So I know people are getting their signal emotions left and right. And it just, for me, just underlines the fact that even as a collective, we're in this big moment of opportunity. But, drilling down to the individual level, everyone is in this moment of opportunity of how can they really maximize and think about new ways of connecting, new ways of engaging. And I'll say that, again, this is something that I practice on a daily basis, and I've had to bring it into my own business. And, when COVID hit the States here in March, I had to binge on Netflix for a couple weeks because my emotions were so strong, thinking, what am I going to do in my business? But in leading into my opportunity, learning everything that I have about, technology, setup, connection, all that kind of stuff, I've been able to reach more people around the world than I had originally planned coming into this calendar year.
Wow.
And my calendar is now more booked than it was, that I had anticipated that it would be. And it's because of the power of technology. It's because that we're working remotely. And now, I'm doing conference work. I'm doing virtual workshops with companies all over the world, helping them, understand and process these signal emotions, helping them learn some tools as they're sitting in this moment of opportunity to maximize it. And then, empowering them with this choice that everyone is sitting in the seat of choice to maximize the opportunity. And it's been great leaning into that opportunity.
Cassandra, talk to me about LinkedIn Learning. How did you get involved with it? And was that at the pinnacle of what you were talking about? You just got a 3-week binger on Netflix and you're like, holy cow, what am I doing? What's this LinkedIn Learning all about? And are the courses that you're teaching on LinkedIn Learning what you just referenced?
They are. So it's all about change enthusiasm. And I guess I should mention, so the name of the book is Change Enthusiasm: How to Harness the Power of Emotion for Leadership and Success. Then the LinkedIn Learning course is all about leveraging the power of emotion to grow through change and disruption. And so it's, all on this topic. I think it's all, very, very timely. The engagement that I've gotten on the course, honestly, has been overwhelming because this is my very first course. And within its first week, it was like the top 3 most viewed. So it's been incredible. But it was an opportunity that came to me through a colleague who's also a consultant. Her name is Lisa McLeod. She has some fantastic trainings on LinkedIn Learning as well. But she introduced me to, the content directors. And based on what I wanted to offer, they're like, yes, this is something that we want on the platform. So I got greenlit for the course before COVID hit.
Oh.
And then after COVID hit, there's like this lull because I thought I was going to start script writing and then go off to their studios in Santa Barbara. But then there's, of course, like this lull. And then she calls me one day and she's like, we're selecting a few instructors to do home production of these courses. And given your expertise, what you're doing in your business, we think you could be one of those instructors, especially given the content you're going to create. And so, they ship me out like the teleprompter, the lenses, the tether cords, everything. And I basically, retrofit my home studio to film the course. So it was a lot of collaboration. Thank you. A lot of love, a lot of diligence that went into it. But it's all the nuggets of change enthusiasm and what I bring to my client base in a very, very kind of 10,000 foot view. And so it's serving as a nice teaser for when the book comes out next year.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that we all check it out. There's no doubt. So do you find that are most of your clients individuals? Are they Or are they the companies themselves going, hey, look, we've got to change something, or there's a tremendous change coming. We recognize that. We want to get ahead of it, and we need to control the masses. Or is it kind of that person that's just like, man, I don't know how to handle these emotions. Help me.
Yeah. So, yes.
It's another yes.
Yeah. So I'll say my client, the people that hire me, are the organizations, the senior executives, the C-suite leaders. I work with a lot of, HR, C-suite executives who bring me in. But then my work is with the individual. The tools that I bring, the mindset that I nurture is through every single individual, whether that be the C-suite leadership team, middle management, or the frontline workers, because this mindset is employable across all levels, no matter where you sit in an organization. So it's the organization, the organizational leaders that bring me in, and then I work with those individuals that comprise the organization, with whether it's a keynote or whether more, the in-depth consulting and the virtual workshops, e-learning, whether it's, the video series, that kind of thing.
That makes sense. Do you fight the perception that you're a culture change person? Do you think you're a culture change person? I imagine, the traditional culture change consultants really look at organizational design as one of their main things. And they get into all different types of thing. And they're futurists sometimes, they're strategy guys and gals, all of those kind of things. Do you clash with the stereotypical culture consultant? And how do you have this discussion with a hiring authority that is choosing between you and, let's just say, a culture change consultant? How do you really say, this makes me different?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I clash with them. I think that a change in culture is a byproduct of what I offer. So often I will ask the question, is resiliency an important value that you want to be a part of your culture? Do you want individuals and leaders who are highly resilient? Do you want that to be, something that is a core part of your cultural strategy? And if the answer is yes, then change enthusiasm is for you. So by changing, and I always go back to belief, by changing the belief system around resilience, by allowing people to be self-actuated and embrace this growth mindset, then you will be instilling resilience into your organization. And it can become a core part of your cultural fabric.
Yeah, I love that. And have you found that, is there a certain type of organization that embraces what you bring to the table more than others? Is it small companies that are kind of have that agility mindset still, maybe a younger owner, all of those kind of things? Or have you found that as long as you can have a conversation with a decision maker, it doesn't matter if it's an old school 100-year-old family owned business, it's big brick and mortar, or a startup software company?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And really, like I say, it goes back to emotion is a universal language. Everybody can understand it. Everybody gets it. So yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a long-standing company. I've worked with companies who've been in existence for 130, 150 years. I've worked with startups. When you can speak the language of emotion, if they're human, then you can have the conversation. Yeah.
Amen to that. I love that. Well, Cassandra, I tell you, I think you have got us better prepared for the next change that's coming. There's no doubt about it. It's so easy to say, oh, have a growth mindset or be optimistic and all that. And I think you've really changed our minds today a little bit about how to think about it and the energy of emotion. Again, I'm going to steal that from you. Love it so much, and your focus on people and emotions and beliefs. I think it's just spot on, and I know that it's ear candy for all the listeners here, because I think this is exactly what the Iron Sharpen Iron movement is about: is finding people like you to help reinforce the power of human-centric leading. And so, Cassandra, would love for you to share kind of a last thought with our audience, if you'd like to.
Sure. I would just say, if you're going through big disruption, and I know many of you probably are, big change, big disruption, feeling your signal emotions, revisit a time where you were going through something tough, where you were going through something really, really challenging. And think of one good thing that came out of you getting through that, whether it was a new connection, whether it was you ended up landing a role that maybe paid you a little bit more money. Think of that one good thing and resonate in that and allow that to be your seed of trust, that no matter how tough things are right now, no matter how badly you might be feeling, this is an opportunity and it is here to serve you. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And remember that seed of trust and let it grow.
Wow. Well, that one good thing that happened to me was meeting you today.
Yeah, thank you.
It's true. It's true. Cassandra, you've got me so motivated today. It's not funny. And I appreciate those last words for sure. I'm going to play that over and over because that is the stuff that's important. So thanks again for joining the movement.
My pleasure. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for joining our leadership movement this week, talking to Cassandra about recognizing the change signals, seeing change as opportunities, and choosing your better self was truly eye-opening for myself, and I hope you too. Don't forget our show notes are posted on the website with key leader takeaways, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast and tell a friend so we can continue to build our tribe. Until next time, remember that iron sharpens iron. Make yourself and others around you better every single day.